Hello and welcome to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm your host, Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. Today's episode is Agency Management Systems, a critical component of agency operations. I'd like to introduce my guest, Michael Ley, Director of Network Relations at HawkSoft. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. I'm glad you could join us today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate the invite. Absolutely.
Excellent. So for the listeners, we've talked about technology a number of times on this podcast, but today we're going to focus specifically on one of the central systems to agency operations these days, and that is the agency management system. And that's why I'm pleased to have Michael on as our guest today. He has over 20 years of experience in the industry, and he's seen the evolution of the agency management system as technology has also evolved, and then, of course, the impact that has had on agency management systems overall. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Michael, you were formerly an insurance agency owner yourself.
That is actually correct. I was in the agency for 19 years, and 10 of those years I was an agency owner, and just a year ago in January joined the team here at HawkSoft.
Excellent. So we could say you feel their pain when it comes to agency owners.
Oh, 100%. Been there, been through that. I know the tough market right now and that sort of thing. I still talk and empathize with many agency owners out there because I lived and breathed it with you.
Very good. All right. At least very good in terms of being able to relate to their situation.
Absolutely.
Okay. So these days, though, you spend a good deal of your time working with large enterprises on education and training relative to agency management systems. So I'm guessing you have some unique insights as we get into this subject matter.
Probably a little bit here. Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. So if you're not opposed, I'd appreciate it if you would start by providing our listeners with a definition of an agency management system.
Sure, absolutely. So I view an agency management system as a system that allows your agency to better serve, grow, and measure progress. An AMS systems brings sanity to your agency, discipline, and a process-driven mindset. You're able to service clients through having all of their policies, risk portfolio, and important information right there at your fingertips. You're able to even grow or look and grow your book through establishing systematic processes that help with referrals, cross-selling, and marketing efforts. But one of the key aspects of the system is being able to see the pulse of the agency through reports and your key policy indicators and tools that are customized to track the things that matter most to your agency.
Wow. There's a lot going on there.
Absolutely. I used to look at the management system as just really that glorified filing cabinet when we first started using it in the agency, and it's definitely came a ways since then.
So, and I have to ask this, and this is totally off of things that, away from things that you and I might have talked about pre-show, but why has it been that the agency management system and the rater for the agency have always, it seems to me, kept these separate and distinct paths? Am I wrong about that, or do they come together? How does that work?
Typically, in the past, they've always remained separate. Now, a lot of times now you have API integrations and some other things to really kind of make it more of a platform where they talk to each other. And I think depending upon an agency's processes, they may start in a rater before it gets to the management system. And that's how they're looking and managing their leads that way, where some are going to start in the management system and it funnels over to a rater. And of course, now, even the last year, some agencies have seen where raters look a little different now because some companies aren't taking rates or providing rates back on the raters and that sort of thing. So some agencies have really had to look outside the box of the rater as well.
Got it. So, and it just seems to me that, as I say so, as I think through this, that there have been a number of times when I've been talking about an agency management system or started to talk about an agency management system, and the agent would immediately be thinking I was talking about a rater.
Right.
And I think that that's probably more steeped in yesteryear, if I'm not mistaken, than what as you've just described, the current situation.
Correct. I would agree with you there.
Gotcha. Very good. So let's talk for a minute, because you've already kind of started down this path, let's talk for a minute about how agency management systems have changed over time. And I'm referring to overall capabilities.
Awesome. So I took my time researching different management systems before we first launched a management system inside our agency. And it's really one that an agency has to do demos with multiple systems, find out the one that's going to work best for them and what they are expecting. After all, we're independent agents, and so you want to make sure that your system is going to work for you and you have choices. And so knowing that there were agencies who have had a system for years, when I was starting to first look at management systems and hearing their pain points, I was surprised that even around 2010, when we made the jump inside my agency at the time, AMSs were like a glorified filing cabinet then and didn't have much in terms of reports, growth strategies, and tools to help you in the day-to-day operations. Now, over the years, they have gone from being systems focused on policy management to platforms that serve as a central nervous system for many roles beyond the policy management. An agency may have only used the management system in the past, but now in order to compete, they are finding themselves needing other tools than what the traditional system had. And this is pushing management systems to really build a more comprehensive feature set into their own system and becoming a suite, or by making policy data accessible for integration through outside services, thus becoming a platform. And I recall really about 5 years ago, the buzz term API started being pushed inside the industry.
Sure.
And a lot of younger agents really talked about it and said, hey, we need this tech stack and we need the data out of the management system to funnel over to this system and to do this. And through API integrations, connections are achieved with different systems which now take on that platform model inside the agency. And this is allowing agencies to market different ways, and particularly around automated communication, sales funnel, and agency processes.
So again, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that the opportunity for complexity here is immense. Is that what the normal or what the typical agent would experience when it comes to utilizing an agency management system? Is that it is complex to operate, or is that just what's happening on the back end?
I would say a lot of it depends on the system, to be honest, because many systems you can scale as you grow the agency. So it can be as simple as you want. For instance, if you have a task center inside of your management system, maybe there's other features or different there's different templates and stuff like that inside of those task centers that you can utilize, but you really don't have to utilize them. You can be as simple as just putting in the task and putting a title to it, or you can have it as complex as being able to put a checklist and routine task and those types of things. So I think with each system, it's going to be a little different. You can use it as simple as you need it to be inside the agency, and as you grow, it can become more complex. In my agency, when we first launched with a management system, we did use it as the glorified filing cabinet. And it wasn't until probably 2 to 3 years into it that we said, okay, I need you to figure out how this works inside the management system. And I looked at another team member and said, I need you to figure out how this works. We're going to come back and we're going to teach each other how it is, because I know there's more things in this system we are not using, and we're not using it to its full capacity. And I want to be able to grow and have everything in that system that's needed.
Understood. So I actually look at that growth in two ways. One would be the growth of the agency itself, and the other would be the growth in your own experience of using the system, and then you can adopt more in terms of its capabilities overall.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I get that. So that being the case, would you describe what you consider the top 3 benefits today of having an agency management system?
So first and foremost, I would say improved efficiency and productivity. It's a central location to have your clients. There's no more filing cabinets having to get up and find that file, although if I got to be honest, even though we used the agency management system as that glorified filing cabinet, we still had filing cabinets 8, 9, 10 years after launching the management system. We didn't officially go paperless. But you didn't have to find that file in somebody's office. Was it not alphabetized correctly? I know plenty of agencies who still use filing cabinets as well as their management system. But through some simple automation like downloads from the carriers coming into the system, it reduces manual data entry, it minimizes errors, and frees up staff to focus on more strategic activities like sales and customer service. Now, I think the second benefit would be enhanced customer service. I remember talking to staff as we went into the management system, and they were like, how is this going to work? How can we do this? Do we just type in the name? Because we weren't familiar with the management system. We never had one. And being able to just type and say, here's the last name, and it pulls up all the client information. Just that time frame that it took, and not having to get up to go to the filing cabinet, search through to find their question, where their policy was, go into the carrier and that kind of stuff to look up the updated information. It enhanced that customer service because the speed and accuracy of the information. And then the third benefit would be streamlined reporting and analytics. Agency management systems come equipped with reporting tools and analytic capabilities, enabling agencies to monitor key performance indicators and make data-driven decisions. This is allowing them to track sales, retention rates, claim trends, and more, providing valuable insights into the agency's operations and financial health. Now, I know you asked for 3, but I'm going to throw a 4th one in here as well.
Okay.
And it's what I see the biggest benefit, and I see it as for E&O protection. The agency management system provides a comprehensive framework for minimizing the risk of errors and omissions in insurance operations because it enhances documentation, ensures consistency, and automates critical reminders, which aids in compliance and supports risk management efforts. And I think in terms of how we see insurance now, I mean, you mentioned I've been in it for just over 20 years now. I know we're a more litigious society now. And so I see agents talk about E&O. I see the issues out there with coverage gaps and that sort of thing. And being able to have all of that in one place and all of that, your processes and documentation right there is aiding in that E&O documentation for you.
That's a very solid and astute point. I like that. It never occurred to me from an E&O perspective that the agency management system would provide some level of risk mitigation for the agency itself. That's a really great point, and I want to thank you for that.
No, absolutely. I know with different systems, they're somewhat customizable, so you're able to put in specific information and ask certain questions. You're able to force staff members to do things certain ways, which of course is making sure that you're not leaving any gaps on the table there. I know I was working with an agency a number of years ago who it was a friend's agency who they didn't have certain tasks enabled and default reminders inside the management system. So when a change was actually made inside the management system, that's what a new employee, that's where they made the change. They didn't go to the actual carrier and submit the change. And so you find out 2-3 months down the road that that vehicle was never added to the policy, but yet it was in your management system. It just never made it to the company.
Right.
And so now you're able to sit there and look at, okay, we have default tasks. We have default things that happen just because an initiation, like a change was made inside the agency. And that's now saying, okay, hey, did this actually get done in the company? You're able to make sure that downloaded correctly, that it was the proper vehicle, the VIN number, and that sort of thing. Same thing on any types of other coverages, just to verify that it was done correctly and it's now part of the policy.
So is the agency management system just, I shouldn't say just, but is it providing the reminder and providing the prompt or the nudge, however you want to put it, or is there a way to actually, I'm hitting this particular key sequence and the system is now going to send off this update to the company?
So most of the time, I would say in most carriers, you're actually having, if you make the change, let's say inside the management system, you're now also having to go to the carrier to make that change. Now I know agencies that do it differently. They go directly to the company first, make the change, and just wait for it to download. Every agency does it differently. Their processes are differently. And honestly, the different management systems probably process things a little differently as well. It's really you having to focus on what your processes are inside your agency to determine how you want it to be handled and the process followed through to make sure all of the documentation is there that you need.
Got it. Okay. This is just kind of another side question, Michael. For example, HawkSoft, the agency management system, does that reside in the agency or is that in the cloud?
So historically for HawkSoft, we've actually had it two different ways. One, you could actually have it internally on your own server hosted in your office. And then we also had what we had where you could remote into a third-party server and have it hosted there. HawkSoft now last year started launching our new version, our new HawkSoft platform that is actually cloud-based. And so we kind of talk about it as like a Microsoft Office product where you're able to download an app on your computer, but you can download it to any computer essentially for the agency. And now all of the data is hosted inside the cloud as well, and we take care of that hosting.
Okay. It's interesting, and the reason why I bring it up is that more and more I've been running into articles and other sources that are indicating that, to use the cloud, to store data in systems in the cloud has gotten to the point of being more secure than any other way of storing these types of things. So
absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why HawkSoft started moving that direction as well, because of the increased cyber liability that's out there and cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, and that sort of thing. We wanted to make sure your data as an agency was secure. And so that's one of the reasons we really started pushing towards this model. Got
it. And that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to move on. I guess as I was listening to you talk about the benefits of the agency management system and the fact that you actually had a fourth one that was very eye-opening for me, probably much smarter people than me out there who are listening saying, well, of course, but for me, it was an eye-opener. I am wondering if you're able to discuss some specific areas that provide for increased productivity as a result of you've touched on this, but I'm just wondering if you have a little more detail about the increased productivity that an AMS or an agency management system provides for the insurance agency.
Absolutely. So we kind of touched base on, not having that filing cabinet, not getting up to have to find that file. I remember asking the question a lot of time, what company are you with? So I didn't have to get up to go to the file. I could just log into the carrier site and figure things out. But having that information right at your fingertips and getting to things in 4 clicks or less. So the moment that customer calls in, you're able to find their file. You're able to drill down. Is it the auto home? Is it the commercial? Is it a life and health policy? What type of policy is it? Drill it down on that second click to now get to that third click, which is now the coverage tab. Whatever the case may be, you're able to get to the data and the information that you need the quickest. So that's one way that I can look at it. The other ways that I look at it is your processes inside your agency. So management systems typically are documenting every step of the way that you are doing something inside the system. And so that's creating that breadcrumb essentially to focus on, was it a phone call? Was it an email? Emails, if you're emailing out of the system a customer, it's now going to save that email and directly attach it to their file. No more printing it off or dragging and dropping it back into the file. You're able to directly attach that, saving time. If you're looking at marketing efforts, you're able to kind of go into your reports really quick and say, okay, do I need to look at which one of my policies are monoline policies that I want to cross-sell the auto or cross-sell the home? Maybe I want to look at my business owners, and we have their commercial policies, but we want to try to cross-sell and get to know them on their personal policies. You're able to see that data right there at your fingertips, and then you can do mass emails, and you want to be somewhat careful with those types of things, but you're able to reach out to them and help market. And that's taking spending your time more wisely rather than having to go pull that file or just spending, going door to door. And so there's a lot of different tasks and things inside the agency management system that, since it's there, the data's there, your customers are there, you're able to focus a little bit more on those processes for increased productivity.
Got it. Or actually, you say focus on the processes, or actually have less focus on them, but easier access, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, very good. As I hear that, I'm thinking to myself, it wasn't that long ago that it seemed like most of the insurance agencies I encountered were trying to get by without an agency management system. And do you see that today, or has the adoption rate really taken off?
Honestly, I run into agencies that don't have a management system to this day. Now, most of them are startup agencies, and I'll give them that. Actually, I was at a conference last week where I was talking to some agents, and they were like, I don't have one. And still to this day, sometimes my mind is blown when I think of that. But when I start to get to know them a little bit, how long have you been in the industry? Oh, I just started up. I just started my agency 6 months ago. Most of them didn't see the need or value in a management system until they get downloads or until they start servicing accounts. But the reality is you're servicing from day one. You might sell that policy today, but tomorrow they might make a change or they might have a claim. How are you going to service that policy? And those without a management system can't be serious enough about growth. Peter Drucker said, you can't improve what you don't measure. And agencies need a system to help with managing their clients. Carriers download into that system. And while many startup agencies are using Excel, and that's true, I know many of the newer agencies say, well, I just put all my clients in Excel. What data points are you putting in there? What are the column headings? What information are you putting there? Is it just their name, address, phone number, contact information? But if carriers are downloading into that system, all of that's going to download for you, which now you're able to spend your time not putting that information in, allowing it to download in, or putting in basic information first, which is allowing you then to spend your time continuing to grow. An IA niche is all about relationships, and without this real-time information provided through the agency management system, the agency is at a disadvantage.
Got it. So that's really interesting, because it also comes back to the point you were making in the prior question I was asking, where you talked about the agency management system providing the agent with access or a view to, like, for example, those with just homeowners that you want to then cross-sell auto or vice versa. And especially in today's market, let's face it, most of the carriers do not want to write monoline business. So you either need to make that cross-sell happen, or you're going to lose your company. And so what I'm getting at here is that it certainly sounds like the agency management system makes that process, that endeavor, easier, much easier for the agent.
Oh, absolutely. I would say, you can focus a management system solely on new business, but there's a whole other side to it where you can focus on retention and renewals. And like we've talked about, cross-selling. So that way you can be more proactive rather than reactive to certain situations, especially in the market we're in today.
Yeah, very good. So let's talk for a moment, if we may, about the scalability of an agency management system, or an AMS. So there have been points in time as technology has evolved where one system, and I'm not necessarily talking about agency management systems in this example, but one system was encountered or purchased by an agent, and along came another that replaced it. So the idea is that, why would I buy today and knowing that 6 months from now something else could come out that will replace this system? And I think that kind of mentality is what caused a lot of agency owners to hold off on investing in technology over the years. But my sense now is that because of the scalability of an agency management system these days, that there's probably less of a chance of that happening in this space. What are your thoughts on that?
Like any other industry, agency management platforms that don't evolve will disappear. And there are some core features that agents expect to be built into their management system. However, look at the new tech startups in the industry. They come into the space to fill a gap. They see a need. They have a niche. And for some, that is great. But if they don't expand upon that, others are going to. And you're right. Some agents, they're like, I saw that new tech startup, but let's wait a little bit. Let's see how things go. When I've looked at platforms in the past or other things to add into the management system, I didn't just do one demo. It's easy to be sidetracked by that flashy tech syndrome, to be honest, and say, oh yeah, let's jump on that one. And I know there are many agencies out there that they jump on that one, and 6 months later, a year later, they're now onto something different that was relatively close to what they were just on. But you got to look at really when you're doing your interview with that tech stack, so to speak, you want to make sure the company, what are their goals? What are their 5-year goals? Where do they see their platform growing to? So that way you're making that best informed decision for your agency.
Very good. So switching gears for a minute, as a marketer, I'm fairly well acquainted with the purpose and advantages of a customer relationship management system such as Salesforce and others. But lately I've heard comments that today's agency management systems can also serve as a CRM. Is that true?
In my opinion, it's always been a CRM tool because it helps manage relationships. And I think some agents really don't see it as that, but that's how I look at it and how I see it. And by definition, the CRM has evolved. So as an agent, we expect that a system will have marketing automation already part of it. And that hasn't always necessarily been the case of an AMS. I think some AMSs are starting to add those capabilities in, but I also think you're able to do some of those things with the API and platform integrations as well. But the AMS, still at its core, is able to do the bulk of what the agency needs. There will always be room for CRM vendors who focus solely on relationship management and workflows. Many agencies are using both and find this truly valuable for their agency. They may only use certain functions then in the AMS because most of the automation is now going to be in the CRM.
Got it. And so what I'm hearing you say is that, yeah, they can do that as a standalone. They can do it in tandem with a separate CRM system. And with the use of an API, you can actually kind of have them talking to each other and working together.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So just quickly, and I say quickly because we're
getting there.
I got to tell you, Michael, this always happens to me, right? So if we can talk about how AMSs, agency management systems, might differ from one company or provider to another.
Absolutely. I would say, first off, look at what the system promises. What is their customer service like and their support? How do you access them? What are they promising from the start? And then one of the biggest takeaways that I always talk about is data ownership. What happens if you want to leave that system? Are there exit clauses? How do you get your data? Do you own your own data? Read the contract. There are systems out there that you have to purchase your data away from them. And then there are others where you don't. So again, that is a key question you need to ask when looking at different AMS vendors. What is their training like? How do they set you up? Is there a dedicated trainer, or are they just handing you videos and a brochure to say, this is our system, go kind of walk through it yourself? And then what is the commitment and the contracts like? Are you on a 5-year commitment? Are you on a 3-year commitment? Again, what's that exit clause like? What are the contracts? What are the buyout options? Those types of things. And then the final thing that I'd always like to talk about is what type of company is it that you're investing in? Is it a corporation? Is it a family-owned business? Who's behind it? And again, what are their goals? Where do they want to see themselves in 5 and 10 years? What's on their development platform to be developed into their system? Those are all things you should be asking when you're looking at a management system, those types of questions, so that way you understand where you're going and what system's going to work for you.
Got it. And that's good insight. What I wanted to ask you is based on, and I will say that HawkSoft has a very positive reputation, but I have to follow up on the question. When I purchase a system from HawkSoft, Do I own the data, or does HawkSoft?
You, the agency, own your data 100%. If you were to leave HawkSoft, we don't charge you for that data. You give us notice, we give you your backup, and it is yours.
To me, that seems like that's the only way to go, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I actually had another question for you, Michael, but we have managed to run out of time. So perhaps we can look forward to another episode together if you're game for that, and we can get into some of the other things that I was hoping that we would have time for. Specifically, I wanted to get a little bit more into the whole issue of artificial intelligence and how that might play as a role in agency management systems going forward. But
absolutely,
yeah. But I can't do it today. So, but yeah,
that's a 30-minute session in itself.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So maybe that works out well for us.
There you go.
I do want to say though, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, I thank you as well.
And so, for our listeners, our guest today has been Michael Ley. He is the Director of Network Relations at HawkSoft. Also, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. To learn more about our organization, the Agent Alliance, please visit SIAA.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. Be well, everyone, and thank you again, Michael.
Thank you.